Look at that. I still can't get over that new intro. It's fantastic. Oh, Josh is a genius. He's a genius. He's done it again. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Welcome back to the Morning View. Yes, another morning, another day in this World Cup 2022, Qatar 2022. What's this, day 3 at this point? Day 3 of the World Cup. The second sort of full day. I'm already tired. I'm already tired. We've got plenty to get into, though, this morning. We're still basking in the glory of England's victorious start to the World Cup over Iran yesterday, 6-2. Some Manchester United undertones that we're going to get into this morning. Harry Maguire, he went off after the first goal that England conceded. Possible illness, not a concussion. We're going to get into that. Marcus Rashford made a bit of history when he came on, scored a goal after 40-odd seconds. We're going to speak about that. Plus, we're going to preview all of the World Cup games that are going on today. 4 of them. 4 games. Got a full packed fixture list today in the Qatar World Cup. So plenty to get into. But Mina, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm actually tired of the World Cup already as well. It's crazy to think that there's 4 games. Basically, I don't know what I'm doing all day because I have 4 games to watch, and I don't know where I'm going to find time to do anything else from 10 a.m. basically until 9:30.
Something like that, yes.
Crazy.
It's going to be a jam-packed day. And if you missed any of the stuff yesterday as well, we've got so much content coming out all the time here on United View. We've got a tactical view dropped with me and Cam last night discussing England's victory and the tactics behind Gareth Southgate's demolition of Iran yesterday. We've got obviously the fan views, player ratings. We're going to be doing remote match views. I'm going to be live for as many games as I possibly can today, even if I fall asleep on the stream. I'm going to be live for that, so don't you worry, we've got you covered. Let's start off, though, Mina, talking about England yesterday. 6-2 for England. Now, I was doing my best not to get too excited yesterday. A lot of the time when I was talking about the general sentiment, shall I say, is that every time I was talking positively about England yesterday was it's Iran. And Iran, as Roy Keane said, was shocking. They were really shocking yesterday. What did you make of England's performance?
Yeah, I think Iran they were not as good as I was anticipating, given their previous performances that I've seen. But England played great. I'm going to start with Jude Bellingham because I think Jude Bellingham, his price tag, whatever his worth is, going into the World Cup, is about to get 100 million put on top of that probably by the end of the World Cup. I think he played really, really well yesterday. He played across, I think, 3 different positions. He was playing in the 4, he was playing in the 8, he was playing in the 10. But I did think that his best position came when he was a bit further up the pitch. But he does exude some sort of confidence on the ball when he's playing a lot as a deeper midfielder, and we saw it in the first 5-10 minutes of the game. I was actually quite shocked because you never really see, even like Saka, you don't really see a 18, 19, 20-year-old making their World Cup debut and being straight into the starting lineup for the opening game. That just shows the immense talent that some of these players have. Players like Saka, who, the fact that he plays for Arsenal, I hate. But when he plays for England, I love him, man. And to be honest, when he plays for Arsenal, I enjoy watching him too because he's just such a good player. But in England, he's just a different guy. And Raheem Sterling, obviously, he's been not in the best form right now at Chelsea, but Raheem for England is a different Raheem. And I say that all the time. I think Southgate got the tactics quite spot on. I think allowing Harry Kane to drop deeper to kind of control the tempo of the game allowed players like Sterling, allowed players like Saka to get a bit more forward, and we saw it with all the goals. Like Jude Bellingham scoring a header, it shows he was one of the furthest men up in the pitch. There was quite a few good goals, but even shout out to Marcus Rashford, the way that he's turning around his the last 18 months that he has, the way that it started and the way that it's going right now. I'm really happy for him.
No, I think you're right about Jude Bellingham. I think I said it in my fan view after yesterday's game. I mean, obviously the word and term generational talent gets thrown around quite a lot. And I understand it's just Iran. I understand it's the opening game. But at the same time, looking what he has been doing recently and what he did yesterday, it's difficult to describe how good he can be. Because got to remember as well, he's still a teenager. So
I think I saw somebody said that he was 15. The last World Cup, he was still doing. He hadn't even started his GCSEs.
Yeah,
he actually hadn't started his GCSEs.
It's insane. And yeah, yesterday he just looked, I mean, his physicality, he was just flinging players off of him. He was getting box to box. And I think you're right that, again, I said it after the game, that there is going to be, it's very rare you'll have this. Literally, every big club in Europe, every single big club in Europe will be making an offer in the summer because he's going to be going in the summer. He's going to be leaving Dortmund. I think it's pretty much, I know the Dortmund hierarchy have come out and said, oh, he's got to make his mind up. I think his mind might be made up as to what he's going to be doing. But
I just hope he doesn't go Real Madrid because they've already got like a midfield duo that I think he's the missing piece. He's the third piece to that midfield that they have, the young midfield. But then also Liverpool, I think, are in for him as well. Chelsea are in for him. And can I just say, a lot of people before the World Cup were talking about who's going to be like young player of the tournament. And nobody was mentioning Jude Bellingham. No one. I even thought, and to be honest, obviously, it's early in the tournament. We're only into the third day. But I think it's only fair that we start including him in the discussions when we're talking about who could be young player of the tournament. Because if he started the tournament like this, I'm looking forward to see how he progresses on.
100%. I mean, I think with Bellingham again, it's just a case of it's his choice, really. Now, what he wants to do. It's a bit like when he was at Birmingham again, and he was just deciding, going around Europe, going, where do I want to go? And he decided to go to Dortmund. It's kind of the same now. I think that the question might be price because he is. It's crazy to say that someone's worth more than 100 million, but he's going to be way more than 100 million. He's going to be more than 100 million pound player. I think. I mean, we're talking.
150,
130,
maybe,
yeah, 130, 140, 150. It's going to be way higher than that. And to your point, my concern if he goes to Real Madrid, you've got him, Camavinga, Tchouaméni. That's a 20-year midfield done like that, sorted.
Yeah, that's literally it's unfair at this point.
Yeah, literally, it'll be unfair. So yeah, Bellingham obviously really impressed. I do want to talk about Harry Maguire though. Because obviously we are still Manchester United channel, if you've forgotten, even with all of this World Cup stuff going on. So Harry Maguire got substituted after the first goal England conceded yesterday. Now, some people were worried that he had suffered some kind of concussion, which if that was the case, he would be out of action earliest possibly until the Wales game, or you never know, concussions could be the entire tournament. But David Ornstein reported late yesterday that Harry Maguire's substitution during England's victory over Iran resulted from him feeling unwell and was not related to a concussion. He should be okay to face the USA on Friday. So when it comes to Maguire, first of all, what did you think of his performance? And I guess, again, you said there's two Sterlings, there's two Maguires as well, is there not?
Definitely, no, there's two. I remember there was one point where we were on a counter-attack that started actually from Harry Maguire. And I saw him as a left winger. I'd never seen him run that quick, progress forward. The play ended up getting broken down, but I think the first goal came from a Maguire pass to the left-hand side towards Luke Shaw's area. And it's funny how players look so different when they play in an international system versus a club system, which is why I think with the whole Harry Maguire thing is when he's playing for England and he's playing well, if you praise him, people will say, oh, he's not good. And then if you criticize him, people will say, oh, but he was good for England. So you can never really win when you're commenting on how his performance was for England. But I think he played well. I think the illness, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like heat related, where, you know, when you're playing outdoors in the heat for so long and you just start to get a bit dizzy, you start to feel a bit nauseous. It might have been something like that. But he did play good yesterday. And I think he was playing on the left of the two centre backs. It was him and John Stones was playing as the right, and every time he was going forward, Declan Rice was dropping a little bit back into his position, and I guess that's how he wants to play in like a ball progressing centre back in a stacked England squad.
Yeah, I thought he did well yesterday, and again, it's funny because he's such a loaded topic at this point that if you do, to your point, if you do say, "Oh, Maguire played well," it's like, but he's not good enough for Manchester United. He's not good enough to be the captain. It's like, well, just talking about this game, he did fine. He played well. He always plays well for England. And again,
could have had a goal as well.
He could have had a goal. Hit the bar, gets an assist as well for the Saka volley. So I thought he did fine. I mean, if you really want to go and defend him, I mean, they did a little sort of highlight on him before the goal, I think a couple of minutes before the goal, and he clearly already wanted to come off during that period because I guess he was feeling unwell. And he does lose the man for the goal, so he does deserve criticism for that, but you could argue maybe he wasn't completely with it at the time where he was thinking, I've got to get off the pitch. So I thought he did fine. I mean, it is a good thing that he's going to be available to play the USA on Friday, because for Gareth Southgate in England, he's an important player. And, you know, when it comes to the defenders that Southgate has picked in that squad, Maguire is one of the better ones. I mean, the only other two options were Dyer and Connor Cody from the bench.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know, the options are a bit limited there, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess if Tomori was on the bench, I'm joking there.
Oh, don't even
But
get us started. Yeah.
yeah, if Tomori was on the bench, he could have. But hopefully, you know what I'm hoping is that this World Cup, he has a great performance, which kind of boosts his value, similar to other players who probably might perform well. Because then come January or maybe the summer, if we look to move him on, we could get something from him. Like, even if, hypothetically speaking, if England win the World Cup, we can easily put 20 million on top of that price tag because he's a World Cup winner,
Yeah.
hypothetically speaking. But even like not just Maguire, but I think Luke Shaw. Like, Luke Shaw had a good game yesterday. Like, he's really, it's funny because Luke Shaw, he's either in gear 5 or he's in gear 1. It's either he's playing really great or he's playing just bad. And the last few months he's been in form, and I expected this from him going into the World Cup because of the form he's been in at Manchester United. And it's just he's just it's crazy. I don't want to describe him as an elegant footballer, but like every time he has a touch of the ball, it's like, I'm like, how can a footballer control the ball like that? Every time the ball gets switched over to him, it's perfect control, literally perfect control. And he has the ability to go forward like with a burst of pace, and also control that pace where he's not overdoing it too much. And obviously he got an assist yesterday. Quite a lot of it was quite a lot was coming from that left hand side of England's fullbacks, and even like Kieran Trippier. I think that was a big part of England's game was the fullbacks getting so forward, getting involved. Obviously Trippier got sat down at one point in the game.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
I thought his career was over. I thought his career was
yeah.
over.
If that was any other fullback, they would have been toast. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for that. But I think the fullbacks played a big part, especially Luke Shaw.
No, I agree. I think Luke Shaw, again, we're going to talk on Marcus Rashford in just a second, but he's another one. Just what a revelation. And also, what's crazy with Shaw is it feels like it's been in a shorter period of time than Rashford. Like, Rashford started to play better over pre-season and he came into the season doing okay, but Shaw didn't start the season particularly great as well. He was in obviously the team for the Brighton and Brentford game, and it does feel like it's in the last couple of months that suddenly he's just obviously physically transformed. But to your point, I think people do overlook sometimes with Shaw that technically he's a good technical player. He's got a good first touch. His delivery into the box is always really good. The frustration is with him sometimes is you want him to be making more overlapping runs sometimes. And I don't know if that's previously been a fitness issue or a stamina issue, possibly, maybe. But you do see yesterday what he is actually capable of from those wide areas if he delivers balls into the box. It's going to be interesting to see if that's really what Ten Hag wants him to do at Man United, because he wants his fullbacks to be so inverted and sometimes playing through the middle. But make no mistake, when he does do those overlapping runs and he delivers the ball into the box, he's got an unbelievable delivery. And you know what it is? It's, you know, contract year, World Cup year, competition year, all plays together. You get this version of Luke Shaw, right?
You're going to get the best version of him, I think.
That's literally how it works. Let's talk a bit about Marcus Rashford, because Rashford, of course, didn't start yesterday, but he came on as a substitute. Came on for Saka, who was on 2 goals. I was thinking, if I was Saka, I mean, look, he scored 2 goals in the World Cup. You're already buzzing, but there was a hat trick ready for him yesterday.
It was ready, yeah, on a plate.
On a plate. But Rashford comes on, and after 49 seconds scores a goal. And a bit of a stats this morning for you. Marcus Rashford's goal against Iran was the 3rd quickest goal by a substitute in World Cup history, and only 49 seconds. That comes from Opta. Just how happy are you for Rashford, considering, again, what we saw of him last season to what we're seeing now, whereby not only he's in the World Cup squad, but he's scoring goals?
No, I'm really happy for him. The way that he's turned it around. Obviously, we know how much of a difficult season he had 2 seasons ago when we lost in the Europa League final, and he came out saying, listen, I've been playing with injury. A lot of people in the squad have been playing with injury.
Yeah.
He decided to get that shoulder surgery, which I think he should have got a lot earlier. But obviously, he the manager needed him, and he wanted to be reliable for the manager. Went on to get that surgery, came back, and he was actually not too poor at the beginning of the season. I remember he came on as a sub twice in the Champions League, and he actually scored. But then he just struggled. He just struggled. There was a dip in his form, whether it was I think some news outlets were reporting that there was off the field stuff that was happening in his life, which was impacting him.
Mm.
Obviously, then the poor form that United was in was obviously impacting him. And then I think obviously at the beginning of this season, he's just turned it around. I think he didn't get a call up in the last international break in September, did he? I'm trying to remember.
He did, but he had to drop out. I
He
think he had a
dropped
bit
out
of
of
a knock.
injury.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which I think is a responsible decision to make. I think to want to come into this World Cup as fit as possible. He didn't know whether he was going to get a call up or not, but to be the option of a fit player. And then the thing is with when he's playing for England is that you look at players like Sterling, who are probably more suited for Southgate, and also he's always performed in an England shirt.
Mm.
I think bringing on Rashford in that 65, 70-minute mark when defenders are tired and just giving him the opportunity to just run at people, I think is what Southgate is probably going to look to do. And we saw it yesterday. I'm really happy with the way he took his goal. I thought he was going to just try smash it from a weird angle with his right foot, but he was patient and came onto his left foot and then just literally passed it into the goal. He didn't knuckleball it. He didn't try to curl it in. He just simply just passed it in, and you can see what it meant for him to score. And I hope he gets a few more goals off the bench for England during the group stages.
And also, as well, I think it goes to show that obviously Southgate's got his favourites, that's fine, but they've got the people that are in form, the people like the Rashfords are going to be breathing down their necks. Like Sterling's got to score goals, otherwise you've got a player on the bench like a Rashford that's more than willing and able to step into the side and score goals immediately. And, you know, I was speaking about it yesterday that he's a player in Rashford that not only would he forget scoring in a World Cup, if this was this time last year, he wouldn't even be in the squad. He'd be nowhere near it. So the turnaround of obviously one being named into the squad and two scoring, I think is a testament to him. And my hope is obviously that he remains fit throughout this tournament. He can come back and possibly come back in better form. I mean, we haven't really thought about that actually from a Man United perspective. I guess it's because historically we've been sort of scarred by this, but we worry about our players going to the tournament, getting injured or getting burnt out or whatever. But is there a possibility with someone like a Rashford that they could come back from a tournament like the World Cup in even better form?
Definitely. I think last season, the dip in his form may have also come from the Euros performance. To be knocked out in the final, to miss a very important penalty mentally, I think that would have had a big impact. So even if England got knocked out in the semi-finals but had a good run, I think he will come back a much more confident Rashford than compared to the Euros when he missed a penalty. He wasn't the only one, but quite a few of them missed a penalty in the final on their home turf. I think it'll be a big difference. And to have players in good form coming back from the World Cup would be very beneficial for us come January, February, when we're going into a deep run of games where we've got, Europa League, we've got January, we're playing two of the top six. So it's important that they come back fit, but also come back in good shape, ready to perform.
And just continuing on with England, I suppose at the moment. Obviously, I don't know about you. I watched the Wales USA game last night. Are you confident, hopeful of England's chances after seeing them play last night and seeing us play yesterday?
Oh yeah. No, I'm not. I don't want to be like, yeah, we're gonna smash them. England's going to smash them. But I do think you just never know. But I do feel like we've gotten through Iran play with a low block. They play with five in the back. I think if we were able to break that down very easily, given the fact that Iran isn't, top 10 teams in the FIFA rankings, if we were able to break down that back line and we were able to break through that low block, I think coming against USA and Wales, I think we will be able to do that too if we continue playing, obviously, in the way that we played, the way England played today. Now, with the Wales and the US game yesterday, honestly, it was the first half an hour was a bore.
It's terrible.
It was a bore. Like the things that I'm doing in the name of football, like watching that game in the name of football, is honestly is actually really funny. So I do think it's funny because England fans are already getting ahead of themselves, where they're looking at the other group and thinking, who I would rather play Netherlands, or I would rather play Senegal, or I'd rather play this team or Ecuador or whatever. But if we get through the group stages confidently, scoring 6 goals in your opening game I think that's a testament, regardless of who the opponent, even if it was Panama or San Marino, like it's still a testament to be able to finish your chances. which
Yeah.
is at club level what we've struggled with. So
100%. I mean, also as well, can I just say, like, and the 2 goals we did concede, first of all, that penalty in, what was it, the 100th minute
if that is a
yesterday.
penalty, I'm surprised the early shouts in the first half was not a penalty.
Yeah, the Maguire one. And what was so annoying, because again, and this really stung United fans yesterday, because we were looking back to that Chelsea game. The moment that Maguire got pulled down the first half, we went, that's a penalty, because we've had one given against us at Stamford Bridge. Scott McTominay, that was given as a penalty. Wasn't even looked at by VAR. And then in the 100th minute, which, by the way, we'll get onto the stoppage time stuff in a second. But in the 100th minute, they give that, which was less of a penalty, in my opinion. It's either they're both a penalty or they're both not a penalty. You have to have the consistency, and they had neither there. What do you make of this whole added time thing? Because in that game yesterday, I mean, in the first half, okay, there was a long stoppage. The keeper was down. He got back up, went back down again. I think it was 14 minutes. Okay, fine. But then there was 10 minutes at the end of the game. So there was 24 minutes of stoppage time. And this hasn't been limited to just the England game. Last night, there was, I think, about 10 minutes added on once again. I mean, unless there's been this thing, and they've kind of been saying, the broadcasters have been saying this, that maybe the officials have basically been told by FIFA, not publicly, hasn't been released publicly, but basically, if there's any time wasting, stop your watch and play it all at the end. But I've never seen anything like this. There's so much stoppage time.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see exhaustion come into it with the players and fatigue. Yesterday they looked tired, especially like
Yeah.
I think it'll be the most difficult when you're the early kickoff, when you're playing in hot weather and playing 112 minutes of a game. But I guess this is to stop all this wasting time, all this, the ball being out of play. Yesterday, the England game, first half, very understandable in terms
Yeah.
of having that long extra time. But it's going to be funny when you come up when we see the teams like that are known to waste time, that are known to roll around
Yeah.
on the floor, that are known it's going to be interesting how that plays out, because when they've got 12, 13 minutes of extra time in the second half because they've been wasting time and they end up conceding in that, people are going to laugh. They're going to be like, okay, well, this is why people are getting it. This is why they're playing with this extra time, is because teams who waste time and are now going to be punished for it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And also as well, what happens when we get to the knockout stages when it is going to go to extra time? We're looking at a situation where they're going to play like 140, 150 minutes of football. Again,
I do remember I remember when they were wanting to trial that 60-minute thing of
oh yeah, yeah.
basically 60 minutes of having the ball in play where the time will stop every time it goes out, similar to basketball.
Yeah.
So I guess they are using this as a trial, because the game, the ball doesn't stay in play for 90 minutes of the game. It probably stays in play for around less than 60 minutes.
Yeah, and I suppose you could be really cynical to your point there. That's maybe why they're doing it. So like after the tournament, the outrage is, oh, we're playing too much time. They go, well, we should just stop it every time it goes out of play. Then we'll just stop the clock. Maybe it's a movement towards that. I don't know. But when it comes to England, though, to your point, I watched the Wales versus USA game, and I can't say I was particularly impressed by either. To your point, that first half in that USA Wales game was really, really poor yesterday. I mean, Wales, I don't know if it was just because it was their first World Cup game in 64 years, but they did nothing in that first half. They made some substitutions at halftime, and they were the better side in the second half, so that was fair towards them. But as an England fan, I watch it and I say, again, you never know, because it's the World Cup and England's England in a major tournament, but they shouldn't have too many issues with them. If they play even like they did yesterday, and I know it's a round, but if they play to that level, they should comfortably beat either. But you never know. You never know with England, so we'll have to wait and see. But again, I feel relatively confident. Let's go to some of the games today. Let's talk about Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. It's the first game. It's about to kick off in about 35 minutes or so. Argentina, of course, everyone focuses on one player. Everyone focuses on Messi. He was been in that picture with Ronaldo playing the chess on the suitcase or what have you. What do you feel about Argentina's chances in this tournament? They got to the final, what was it, 2014? They always feel like they're that team that people talk about, but it never really truly get there in the end. Might be Messi and Ronaldo's last World Cup as well. So is this the time, do you think, for Messi?
Yeah, I think he's been in good form. I think he's been in good form for club. And I do think that this is probably the best chance that Messi has in his career. to win a World Cup. But the difficult thing for Argentina, and I know a lot of people's favourites are the two South American teams. It's Argentina and Brazil are the two favourites for a lot of people. Luckily for them, teams like France are not as stacked as they were in the last World Cup. So I think Argentina got a good chance. I think they've got a good group that they will maybe easily top. I expect them to cruise past Saudi Arabia today. Honestly, Saudi Arabia, similar to Qatar, are the only two countries that have players from their players in their national team only play in their local league. So I think that might come into it, where experience might come into it, international experience, top 5 experience, top 5 leagues experience might come into it. There's one good player that I know of in Saudi Arabia, but I don't maybe I'm just the bar is very low.
Yeah.
But given their previous World Cup performances, I don't expect them to really make a showing today against Argentina. And I would be very shocked if Argentina don't score more than 2 goals against them.
Yeah, I'm just looking because obviously the teams have been released now, and obviously, as you would expect, Messi starts. You've got Di Maria in there, De Paul. The defense is quite interesting. You've got Romero, you've got Otamendi starting at centre back. Still, no Butcher. This is a disgrace. It's cheat. They've got Otamendi at centre back and not Lisandro Martinez. What a joke that is. Favourites FC in Argentina as well. But I mean, you look at that team. It's okay. I mean, there are, to your point, there are probably stronger teams. There are stronger teams in the tournament, but they do have good players in there. They do have your Messi's, Martinez, Di Maria, who is in a pretty underperforming Juventus side. I mean, and to be fair, for a lot of those players actually looking in this Argentina squad, it's probably going to be quite a few of them last World Cup. I am surprised just looking at the bench of some of the players they've got on the bench that they haven't played. They've got Dybala on the bench. I know, did Dybala have an injury recently? I think he might have just made it to the World Cup. But again, Martinez is on the bench. Correa's on the bench. Julian Alvarez as well. So some of the sort of younger players, if you will, are being put on the bench in favour for the older players. But like I said, Argentina is always one of those sides that people always point to and always say they could maybe, just maybe, they could be the ones to go far. But as far as, like you said, Saudi Arabia, I recall they've been in a few World Cups, haven't they? And to your point, they've never really done all of that much.
They lost on the opening last year against Russia 5-0.
Yeah, exactly. Although I do know, I think they're putting in a bid to host, I think, one of the World Cups after
it's funny.
Next one.
So it's funny because earlier in the year, I think, or was it maybe the end of last year, Messi signed a deal with the state of Saudi Arabia to be a poster boy for tourism.
Right.
So it's funny that he's playing against Saudi Arabia today because they literally put money in his pockets. And yeah, Saudi Arabia are bidding to host it for 2030 alongside, I think, Egypt and Greece. So they're trying to do like a joint bid, similar to Uruguay and Argentina making a joint bid together to host the 2030 World Cup. I'd be very surprised if they ever won the bid. It'll be a 2.0 of this World Cup.
Yeah, it's a loaded one, certainly, isn't it? Yeah. Mike says, what are your opinions of Curry Hakpo last night? Well, I didn't see the whole game. I was on the way back from the studio at the time, but I did see a lot of people buzzing about Curry Hakpo. He's the answer to January, Mina. Did you see his performance? Obviously, he got his goal for Holland, so that price that maybe was quoted for him, which wasn't that much, might just get a little bit higher now.
Yeah, he was playing in like the 10 role. I think he started in the 10 role because they had Bergwijn and someone else up front. And then he shifted a bit more forward when Bergwijn came off. That goal actually came from a De Jong assist.
I know.
It was a De Jong assist to Gakpo. And maybe that's what Ten Hag that was his vision. This was his vision.
That's what I wanted.
De Jong to Gakpo. It was a good header, but it was also very poor goalkeeping from Mendy.
What's happened to him? Like, honestly, I don't know what's happened to him recently.
He's not been the same since they won the African Cup of Nations. He's not been the same, and it was 2 mistakes he made actually against Holland that cost them 2 goals. But particularly that one kind of reminded me of what Al Shaib, the Qatar goalkeeper, did on Sunday when he came out so far off his line, didn't even win the ball. They ended up conceding it. Luckily for them, VAR reviewed it. Mendy did something similar where he came so far off his line for a ball that I don't think he should have. If he came for it, he should have got it. He should have got that ball.
And he's been struggling for Chelsea as well recently. So again, I was really shocked by that. But to be also just as well, just the quality of that game too. I wasn't blown away by Holland at all. And again, it'll
Both
probably
teams,
you don't want to start too fast, and that might be the problem for
yeah.
England. But to your point, yeah, both teams were just way off it.
Yeah, but and it wasn't a 2-0 game. It was
No.
not a 2-0 game. So I did feel bad for Senegal for conceding because they did create a lot more chances than the Netherlands. They did create but this is the thing with like football and just like the world. It's not about who creates the most chances. It's all about who takes their chance when it comes to them, and that's very much what Holland did. It did give me a bit of PTSD from Van Gaal football, watching the Netherlands team. I was literally a bit traumatized, but it was not a 2-0 game. So Holland were like they had 2 chances and they took it. They scored their 2 goals.
Yeah, it was like you said. It did harken back to the Louis van Gaal era at United of just a really boring game, ends 2-0, and then you go, "See, we won." And you're like, "Yeah, but it was." That takes a lot of the context out of it. Let's talk about France. France kick off their campaign today against Australia. One of the favourites, if not the favourites for the tournament, despite all of their injuries, though. Who have they got missing? They've got obviously Pogba missing, Kante, they've got Nkunku missing, Benzema missing now as well. Kimpembe. Despite that, though, and this is what is crazy, this is how stacked France's squad is. Despite missing all of those players, they've still got a ton more that could easily be considered the favourite. So I would expect them to easily go past Australia today. But in terms of the tournament in general, have they got to be considered one of the favourites, if not the favourites?
Well, they're the champions. So you always have to give them that doubt. But also, we do remember the curse of the champions that
I was waiting for it, yeah.
The winner of the World Cup tend to get knocked out in the group stages in the following World Cup. I think only one team in the last 5 World Cups hasn't. I want to say it was the 2006 winners, which I think was Italy. I might be wrong. Or was it Brazil? Sorry, no, Brazil, I think, was the only one to not get knocked out after they had won it. But since 98, I think France won it in 98. They got knocked out in 2002.
Yeah.
Brazil won it in 2002. They didn't get knocked out in 2006. And then everyone after that got knocked out. It's going to be interesting because I think their midfield is just lacks. Like, they're missing Pogba and Kante. I think no matter the criticisms that people have of Kante and the criticisms that they have of Pogba, I do think those are big shoes to fill. But saying that, they've got Tchouaméni, they've got Camavinga, and they've got Youssouf Fofana, who for me, Youssouf Fofana is one of the most impressionable centre mids out of the 3 of them. He's just not had his opportunity on the big stages. He was Tchouaméni's partner at Monaco before Tchouaméni left. He's currently playing for Monaco, and he's having actually one of his arguably one of his best seasons. So, and bear in mind, he's only got 1 international cap. He got his first French call up in September. So now to be going to the World Cup, that's big weight on his shoulders. That's big weight on Camavinga's shoulders and Tchouaméni. But I do think that they're very up to the challenge. It's going to be interesting to see because I think Mbappe and Giroud always play off each other pretty well in the French squad. They've got Griezmann, they've got Dembele. Like, even though they're missing a lot of people, they've got a good squad.
It's crazy.
They've got a good squad.
Like, so even like you said with funny. The midfield, like you have Tchouaméni, Fofana, Camavinga. We tried to sign Rabiot. It's not as if he's a bad player. They've still got Rabiot. Yeah, obviously the people like Guendouzi, I'm not too sure if they'll feature too much, but even in the attacking options, to your point, Griezmann, Giroud, Dembele, Mbappe, Kingsley Coman, like that, they're fine.
I think the issue for them is going to be in the middle of the pitch in terms of the creativity that comes from the midfield. It'll be interesting to see if someone will drop a bit deeper to create those opportunities for the forwards. But then it'll be, I don't want to say I would be surprised if they get knocked out, but it's just the way that the curse works. It's like it's hard for me not to believe that it actually might be a thing.
It works in mysterious ways, and also as well for this sort of. I mean, France always have a strong squad, but for a real golden generation for them in the tournaments, apart from the World Cup, they haven't really delivered. I mean, in the Euros in 2016, they got to was it final? Final didn't win, and then obviously in the Euros last year, what did they go out quarterfinals to Switzerland? So. There's always this expectation that they're going to deliver. Maybe it's different for the World Cup as opposed to the Euros, but you never know. But they've still got a fantastic squad. I mean, I understand what people are saying here when they're saying that Show Rahman says here, France have a stacked squad, but they've had the spine ripped out of it. So obviously they'd be a much and far better squad. And even these players that maybe are playing today would likely be on the bench, and they'd be an option, to come on for a Pogba or a Kante, and they'd have been even stronger. So obviously they are all a loss, but I would still expect them to comfortably beat Australia today. I wouldn't be expecting too much from them. Let's talk about Denmark. Denmark versus Tunisia. Of course, when it comes to Denmark, we think of one person, that being Christian Eriksen. Look, when it comes to them as well, look, they did get to a semi-final and they took us to extra time at the Euros. So they're not a bad squad. And to be fair, since we're talking about Eriksen, what a comeback. I mean, literally, just over a year ago, we weren't sure if he was ever going to play football again. And he said his big motivation for coming back was he wanted to play at a World Cup. So to come back from where he was previously, he's playing at a World Cup. He's playing regularly for one of the biggest clubs in the world in Manchester United. I mean, what a comeback. It's crazy.
Denmark are my dark horses. They are one of the two of my dark horses. I do think Denmark can. I think in my bracket, in my World Cup bracket, I think I have them going to the semis. Maybe I have them topping the table. I think they could top their table. Defensively, they've got Anderson, they've got Christensen, they've got Schmeichel in goal. They've got an experienced team. They've got Eriksen, they've got Damsgaard. They've got a good team. And with Christian Eriksen, I think having him dictating that, I think he's going to play in that. Bruno Fernandes plays for United is where he's going to be playing for Denmark, which I think is the position that Denmark will get the best out of him. I'm really happy for him in terms of not just turning it around, but like what he went through, and then within 18 months to be back and to be playing at a World Cup. I'm glad a lot of people are agreeing with me, because I do think Denmark are a team that no one's talking about. I'm not sure why people are not talking about them, given the Euros run that they had, and the quality that they have, and the group that they have. They've got Tunisia, they've got Australia. A lot of people are anticipating probably France and Denmark make it out of the group. But I do think Denmark could maybe top that table.
Yeah, I mean, you do look at their squad, and it's a squad that, like you said, is experienced, have played with each other for a while. Their midfield's actually really strong, isn't it? You've got Eriksen, you've got Højbjerg, you've got Delaney from Sevilla as well. So they've definitely got options. And to your point, Denmark always do all right. They always do okay. And they're certainly a team I don't think you can overlook, especially against a team like Tunisia today. I think they'll comfortably beat them. Of Tunisia, though, considering, again, it's the United channel, I've got to pronounce this right because you told me how to pronounce it properly last time. Is it Hannibal? Is it a bit sort of French?
I think it's Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Yeah.
Hannibal. Mejbri.
Yeah.
Mejbri is... does he regularly play for Tunisia? I mean, he has been called up, so I would assume that he regularly plays, or am I mistaken?
I think this year he's played... so Tunisia changed their coach after AFCON.
Right.
And since then, he's been getting regular call-ups and regular playing time. The issue with Tunisia is they are such a defensive team that they don't score. I think they got through. If I'm not wrong, they got through on an own goal against, I want to say Mali, maybe it was, in the qualifiers. And an own goal got them through. They didn't score across two legs aside from that own goal, and that's the struggle that they have, is the fact that they're so defensive. They don't know where the goals are coming from, and that's how the manager plays. Hannibal, he does play for them. He does start for them in centre mid. I'm not sure if he's gonna play today, but out of the 5 African teams, I don't really have high hopes for Tunisia.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, then, because which out of the African teams is the one you think is going to go the furthest? Because I saw you talking about this on Twitter.
Yeah, Senegal were one of my favourites before Sadio Mane's injury. Obviously, yesterday we saw how they performed. For me, it's definitely Morocco. Morocco is number one, just because of how fluid their team is, how they've got a lot of squad depth. They've had a big injury to them in Amin Harit, who got injured in the last game in the French league. He broke his leg, I think, in a very harsh challenge. Horrible challenge. So he will definitely be missed. But Morocco have a lot of depth in their squad. They've got a lot of quality. They've got a lot of experience. So that's one. Ghana, I think, have a good team. Although a lot of Ghanaians I know are not too optimistic with their national team. So I don't want to be too optimistic if they're not optimistic. But they've got a good team. They've got good attackers. I think the issue is that they've got individual quality. And a lot of these players just haven't shown it in terms of playing as a team, playing as a unit. Obviously, they've got a difficult group. They've got Portugal. I hope they get their payback on Uruguay. They've got South Korea. So I hope they can come out maybe second in that group. And then Cameroon, they are the most consistent, inconsistent African team. Like, that's the only way for me to describe them. And who's the other African team? I'm missing someone. It's Tunisia, Ghana, Morocco, Senegal, Cameroon. Oh yeah. So it's those 5. Yeah. So I think maybe 2 of them will make it out of their group. I think 2 of them will make it out of their group. But Ghana and Morocco, I'm leaning more towards those 2.
Interesting. Finally, let's talk about Mexico versus Poland the other game today. When you think of Poland, obviously you think of one player, that being Robert Lewandowski. Mexico, I recall back to, was it the World Cup of 2014? Well, first of all, actually, the Mexican goalkeeper, everyone talks about him because when it's a World Cup, he always performs. When it comes to Lewandowski, though, it would probably be, again, probably his last World Cup, you would think, maybe. I mean, I guess it's a possibility of him because he's such a talismanic figure that you could potentially see him playing for Poland in 4 years' time, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it's difficult for me to count Poland out just because they have Lewandowski. Like, they have him up front, and it's very difficult for me to count them out. I think this game will be a draw. I don't think it will be a game of many goals. But also the early stages of the group phase is not like, I think we've been spoiled to see England score 6 goals yesterday, because I don't think everyone's going to be scoring 3, 4, 5, 6 goals during the group stages. This is a interesting group. But yeah, someone mentioned Matty Cash. Can someone explain to me how he plays for Poland? I'm confused.
I believe he has Polish grandparents or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a thing whereby it took a while, but he had to get Polish citizenship, and then I think that was in like the last year or so. He's only started playing for them. But good, because he's a player that I think that, here you go. Ed said his mum's Polish. There you go. It's one of those situations whereby he probably wouldn't play international football for England, but he's at a World Cup. And obviously there's going to be parts of his family that are going to be absolutely buzzing, representing Poland there. So
there's a lot of people like that, though. McAllister playing for Argentina.
Yeah,
I think he's English, but he's born in Argentina and grew up there.
Yeah.
He played in an academy there. Half of the world's team are born in England, or have some sort of roots to England. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think this game will probably be like a 1-1 draw.
I'm going to say that
it'll be a draw.
It's difficult.
We'll be lucky to see goals.
You think so? And is that just a thing, do you think, when it comes to like the group stages of the opening games and the group stages of the World Cup? Because, in any international tournament, it tends to work out like the first couple of games, unless it's a big team playing a smaller team, they'll batter them. That's fine. But apart from that, you get draws. Second game, maybe the teams come out a little bit more. And in the last game, they have to go for it. So you'll get goals. But are we looking at it then maybe saying that the England game yesterday is somewhat of an anomaly, do you think, with all of the goals?
Yeah, I do think so. I can't remember an England. That's actually the most goals they've scored in an opening fixture in the history of any major competition, including the Euros. And I do think, in the group stages, the first game does tend to be, it's just a bit lethargic, and it's just players getting used to, especially I think a big part is playing it in Doha, where it's hot. This is the people are experiencing their first game in that weather. If you're lucky to have an evening kickoff, it's a bit cooler. But if you're playing in the daytime, you're going to experience playing in heat. I don't know if there's air conditioning in the stadiums as they promised when they won the bid.
I think there is, and I saw Melissa Reddy doing a piece the other day saying that actually, but this was for the first game, though. It must be said, she was saying at some points it actually got quite cold. They actually had to put like some scarves on and stuff like that because it was getting cold in there. But at the same time, is that because of the air conditioning, or is that because last night for the USA versus Wales game, by the time that finished locally, it was past midnight. So to your point, when you have a game like today with Argentina, that's middle of the day, pretty much. I think it's how many hours ahead are they? So it's like, pretty much
about 3 hours
1 p.m.
ahead.
Yeah,
so it's 1 p.m. like peak. It's the peak of the day. So
exactly.
It'll be the hottest point of the day for them.
Exactly. So I sympathize with them because that's going to be tough. But to your point, if the stadiums are air conditioned, that's kind of the point, is it not?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So there you go, guys. That's the morning view for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to jump off here and go on to another stream almost immediately to do the Argentina versus Saudi Arabia game. You don't even have to go anywhere. This stream will redirect you straight to there. So you can all join me immediately. So I'll be doing that today. We'll be back tomorrow as well with another morning view, hopefully discussing some big World Cup stories and some big World Cup results, possibly some Manchester United news as well. You never know. It's still bubbling over just a little bit over there at Carrington. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. We're out of here. Have a good Tuesday morning, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.